I want to talk a little bit about the goddess Sophrosyne. Sophrosyne. She was or is a Greek goddess of prudence, of temperance, of being like excellent in character. Oh, of sound mind, prudence, moderation, of sound mind. Yeah. And so she can be very, 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 very helpful to enlist as a ally on your journey of not drinking or not using drugs or not using whatever your addiction may be. Or even if you feel like you don't really have an addiction or an alcohol problem, but there are things that you are doing that don't really work for you and you want to shift to be more prudent. Another one is a good one that is oh yeah, Ma'at, M-A-A-T. She's an Egyptian goddess. She is embodying restraint, justice, and balance. So if you're more into Egyptian gods, goddesses, or she just maybe represents more of what you're going for. Like I talked about before, I'm working with Mercury. Mercury is very spicy and energetic and a bit trickstery. So um for those of you trying on like a very focused healing journey, you might want to stick with slightly less spicy one. I enjoy Mercury because I enjoy that the it's a really interesting sort of a like a really high energy. And I like it because when I'm really motivated and um I'm really active in working or doing magics or whatever, I embody that energy. And so for me, that really high, like buzzy energy is aligned with my own buzzy energy when I'm excited about something. But I feel like Sophrosyne is an especially good one for tempering oneself, for helping with restraint. And like we've talked about before, just setting up a little altar. And so I make my offerings to Mercury on Wednesdays. I make them once a week. Sometimes I add a little more in there. And I just do, I looked up what Mercury is into. And so I make honey water every time. And then Mercury also was really into bread and rosemary and things like that. So I make just like a tiny little plate, like a little taster plate of these things. And I burn incense that Mercury is supposed to like. And I have this, I have just like these things. And then, so in order to activate the relationship with God in that moment, kind of like get their attention, there's this chant. And so I do it either 4 times or in multiples of 4 for Mercury, because 4 is a number, one of Mercury's kind of sacred numbers. So you would look up, if you're going to do Sophrosyne or Ma'at, you look up their what things they're associated with, and they might have a number, they might not. So I personally like the number 9. I think it's a very magical number. And so you say this a certain number of times, depending on what number you decide is going to be the right number for your particular god or goddess that you want to work with. And so this is what I do with Mercury. I say, Io Hermes, Io ho, Io Hermes, Io ho, Io Hermes, Io ho. Io Hermes, Io Ho. And then I kind of wait and feel the energy, feel the connection. Right. See, right now, even just saying that for you guys, I felt a sort of buzzing, like a zzz. It's like energy is very subtle, and you might not feel anything at first, but the more that you work with them, the more you're going to strengthen the relationship and be aware. I would um, caution you that entities of various kinds may try to come into your space pretending to be gods. And if you ever feel uncomfortable or it feels wrong or something just feels off, um, stop it immediately and state that you do not give your permission for any entities to come into your field, and that they can just fuck right the fuck off. You don't have to say it like that. Um, but like, I claim myself for myself, and I am God, I am sovereign, I am free. You are not welcome, basically, is more or less enough. And as a heads up, if you ever do get entities that come all up in your biz and you cannot get rid of them, please reach out to me. That is something that is one of my specialties. And we'll together we'll poop them right off of you. It does require a little bit of emotional processing, because they can only get into you when you've got things going on that are sources of food for them, unpleasant things, hidden dark things, things that have been undealt with or locked away, that are trauma or guilt or any number of things. I once had a forgotten, like a blocked memory from when I was a child, from something I didn't even do. It was a little bit of like shame and fear and all these things like wrapped into one little package that I had pushed down, that was looking at like a beacon to a demon. And I kept myself really good and safe, but it was wearing me down. I was very tired all the time, and like, because I was just like so vigilant, energetically keeping this thing out. But I had this food, this memory that I had blocked out, this of shame and like lust, but not lust for me. It was I was a kid at the time, so it was like some weird thing that an adult had did, not anything super traumatizing, but at the time, for me as a child, it affected me very intensely. And so I had to uncover that hidden blocked memory and look at it and honor the little girl me and release that, basically, so that the demon wouldn't see me as food, because I didn't have any other things at that particular moment. I'm sure more will come up sometime. We've got a lot of junk to clean up. So again, working with a god is really lovely. I do recommend also being very careful with dark gods and goddesses. And by dark, I mean those who are like, I wouldn't really recommend working with Loki. I don't really think Loki's up to very much good. Yeah, I can, yeah, there's just, and there's a bunch. There's a bunch out there that might not be really wise to work with, but that's also left up to you and your own discernment and what you're what kind of journey you're on. So Go and research gods and goddesses and see what feels right for you and pull up what the kind of things that they're into, the kind of foods they like, incense, set up you can set up just a tiny little one. And, I like to write my wishes on a little piece of paper, fold it up and put it on the altar. Um, I read it out loud also, and sometimes I revisit it, pull it out and see if I need to make changes. I also like to write if they have a symbol, write their symbol on the letter. And yeah, it can be a really just kind of a fun way of engaging with the the god or goddess gestalts because there's these energetic forces, these energetic beings who are out there and they're part of our world. Again, it's one of those things where it's like we live in a magical world. Just we've been for a long time programmed and taught that we don't. And so it's now the time for us to reclaim our magic. And our magic lies in the unseen, it lies in the imagination, it lies in working with these beings who are not in the physical. That includes like nature spirits, fairies, even gnomes and dwarfs and beings who are in a different dimension. So we can't see them, but they can feel us and interact with us if we reach out to them. God's goddesses, they're in a different dimension. They're in a different space. They're like doing different things. But if we reach out to them, we can get in touch with them and we can work together to create our magics. So, okay, well, I wish you good luck with your working with a god or goddess journey. And yeah. And if you decide not to do it, that's cool too. Like we all have our own paths.